the meeting. Here to tell us what we can expect in that meet and greet is and everything else in the business world is Brent Wilsey from Wilsey Asset Management. Good morning, Brent. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
All right, well, let's start right there with the G20 get-together. Everyone's waiting for the world leaders between China and the United States to meet. That face-to-face is going to occur. Is anything going to come of it?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. Will anything come of it? We hope so, because we've been on this wait and see for about a year now, and I think we could see it. And what would be positive if there's some things that are said about not negative. I guess not negative would be a positive, because if they fall apart again, doesn't look good, we'll see markets probably slide quite a bit. But if they come out with some positive signs that, yes, we're talking, we're getting closer now, we should see markets rally come Monday. And Friday, not much on Friday, but more anticipation.
Everyone talks so much about a trade agreement between the two countries, the two superpowers, but no one talks about specifically what would that agreement look like? What would be in a fair agreement, assuming that both sides have to give a little something that they don't want to give in order to get something they do want to give? What's more important to the United States and China?
Well, let's kind of step back a little bit in history here briefly, because what the tariffs were for was when China was a developing country, they had to have these tariffs on there so that they could develop their manufacturing and compete fair. Well, now they're like the little child that still wants her allowance when they're working. That is not the case anymore. China is a very strong power. They do have manufacturing. They do have a good economy. We need to take those tariffs away and compete on a fair ground. So they're charging us tariffs. We're charging them tariffs now. We need to go to real free trade and compete on a normal economy on each side.
So no tariffs at all, and then you have to do something about intellectual property, and boom, you have a deal.
And that's the big one.
We banged it out in 30 seconds.
We're done with it. Yeah, let's go.
So but there's a feeling that China doesn't want to make any concessions until after the 2020 elections. You say?
Well, and they need to. And the problem is we need to stand strong. They don't want to give up. And again, it's like the child that's getting their allowance. They're now working. They don't want to give up. China does not want to give those tariffs, because look at how well they've done. You take those tariffs away from them and compete on fair ground. Well, maybe they won't do quite as well, but they'll still do well, and they want to become the world dominant power by 2025. Well, if we take those tariffs away, that's not going to happen. So we want to compete on a normal, fair trade agreement with no tariffs at all, and again, not steal or take our international property rights.
All right, while we hold our breath there, I ask you this question. What's a bigger concern to the United States economy? Trade wars with China or a real war with Iran?
Well, do you want to get hit on the right side of the face or the left side of the face? Because neither one is good. Hopefully neither one happens. Hopefully the trade wars do resolve. We're now doing sanctions on Iran, so I don't think we're going to have a trade or problems with a war with Iran. The problem is we don't know, and that's what causes the market to move. And the market's up today, which is positive. Yeah.
So we're getting closer to an all-time high for the Dow, which was 26,960, I think was long time back. What are the important things that are happening this week that you're keeping an eye on?
Yeah, and actually this June, it's the best June in 85 years, by the way. I mean, we got a lot of things we're looking at, because on Tuesday we've got some earnings reports come out from companies like from FedEx, Lennar Home Builder, technology company. These are important, because if these don't come in very well, then we could see rates drop. And these are just a preview. In a couple of weeks, we got some big reports coming out. When you get the main ones coming out, we also have new home sales coming out. The estimate's 677,000 on an annualized basis. That is up from last period, 673. So that's a positive. Lower interest rates would help new home sales and existing home sales. June consumer confidence comes out. This shows how the consumer is feeling. And if it's positive, and right now they're looking at about 130, a little bit down from 134, that's okay, because it still shows the consumer is positive, which means they'll be spending, which is positive for the economy.
Why is there such a disconnect between people who point to government stats and say, hey, things are going well, and then you see consumer confidence numbers dipping? Why are people still, USA Today just did a study on people are still worried about their money. That's their preeminent concern. Explain the disconnect.
Well, and I've been managing money for 40 years now, and it's constantly changing. That's why I can't look at this on a Monday and say, okay, I'm done for the rest of the year. You've got to continually be on top of this because it's constantly evolving and changing. And what is a consumer doing? Maybe consumer confidence doesn't come in good. Maybe consumer doesn't buy homes. Maybe they are going to the store spending. So it's constantly evolving. And that's why I love what I do, because it's never the same thing, and you've got to be on top of it. That's why we share it here on Mondays, what's coming up, because it changes consumers' lives.
All right, I bet our next conversation will be talking about what came out of the G20.
You're correct.
Hey, thanks for stopping by this morning.
Alrighty.
All right, 2 NBA legends are being honored today. We're talking about the award.